right, so in today's lesson, I'm going to be adding and subtracting rational expressions. This is kind of like adding and subtracting fractions. We need to have the same denominator. So if I take a look at number 1, it has the same denominator. So when it has the same denominator, I can add my numerators. 7 plus 3 is just 10. So this one is just 10 over 4x. And then I want to simplify this if possible. So 10 and 4 are both divisible by 2, so I get 5 over 2x. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same thing for number 2. It has the same denominator, but it has a negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a plus and move the negative over there so I don't forget what I'm doing. Okay, so then I have 2x minus 5 on the top over x plus 6. And since I don't have the same factors, this is my answer. Okay. So if I take a look at number 3, that denominator is not the same. So what I want to do is I want to figure out what pieces both denominators have and make sure, like, what pieces they each individually have, and then make them both have the same ones. So I want to factor them as much as possible. So this one is 7 over 9x squared. That one doesn't really factor. On the second one, however, I can factor out a 3x. Both 3x squared and 3x are divisible by 3x. And then I'm going to write an x in parentheses, because 3x squared divided by 3x is x. 3x divided by 3x is 1. So I have 9x squared, 3x, and x plus 1. I need these all to be the same. So I can clearly see this one is missing x plus 1, but notice it's 9x squared. 9x squared can be divided by 3x. So this one, all it needs is the x plus 1 to be multiplied. Okay. Over here, I need to turn 3x into 9x squared. So what I need to multiply over here is another 3x over 3x. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave my denominator simplified. I'm going to leave it as 9x squared times x plus 1. But on my numerators, I'm going to actually distribute. So I have 7x plus 7 on the top, because I did 7 times the x, 7 times the 1. On the bottom, I said I'm going to have 9x squared times x plus 1. On the second one, I just have to multiply 3x times x, and I get 3x squared. On the bottom, I have 9x squared plus 9x squared, parentheses x plus 1. Then I want to add my numerator. So I get 3x squared plus 7x plus 7 over 9x squared times x plus 1. This does not. So I'm looking to see if I can factor this. 3x squared plus 7x plus 7 does not factor. And if I want to check really quickly, what I can do is I can go to Desmos. Let me open it up. And if I type in just the numerator, so 3x squared plus 7x plus 7, it never crosses the x-axis, so that means it's not factorable. Going back to this, this would be my final answer. Okay. Same thing on number 4, but what I'm going to first do is I am going to go ahead and change my sign. So I'm going to distribute this negative into my numerator only. So this is going to be positive, this is going to change signs, and this is going to change signs. So when I multiply, I don't have to worry about that. Then I want to factor my denominators. So on the first fraction, I have x plus 2 over 2 times x minus 1, because I divided 2 out of 2x, which gave me the x, and 2 from negative 2, which gave me the negative 1. Then I have plus 2x plus 1, because I changed my signs on the numerator for my second fraction. I'm looking for what multiplies to positive 3 and adds to negative 4. That's going to be -3 and -1. Okay. So now I'm looking for what I need to have on both sides. So this one has a 2 and an x minus 1. It's missing the x minus 3. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by x minus 3. Over here, this had the x minus 3. It has an x minus 1. It's just missing this 2. So it gets multiplied by 2 over 2. Then I want to multiply with my numerators. So I actually distribute on the top. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. -3 times 2 is -3x. -3 times 2 is -6. On the denominator, I have all these pieces factored out. I have 2 times x minus 3 times x minus 1. Over here, I just have to multiply those two things by 2. So I have 4x plus 2 on my numerator over 2 x minus 3 x minus 1. Then I want to combine like terms. So I have the x squared. Then I have a 2x, a -3x, and a 4x. So 2 minus 3 is -1. -1 plus 4 is 5. No. -1 plus 4 is 3. And then I have -6. Still over the 2, x minus 3, x minus 1. Then what I need to do is, if I can factor my numerator, I should. So I'm looking for what multiplies to -6 and adds to 3. Pretty sure this doesn't factor nicely. Let me go double check on Desmos. Oh no, it's plus 3x. Yeah, it doesn't factor nicely because these are decimals where it crosses the x-axis. So I leave this one like that. If it did factor nicely, I would cancel out pieces that were on the top and bottom. Okay? So what I want you to do is take a few minutes, pause the video, and then work ahead on the practice problems, and then I'll go through and solve them, and you can check your work with me. All right, so on number 5, they have the same denominator already, so I want to just start off by adding like terms. 5 plus 2 is 7, so I have 7 over 21x. Over here, I want to change the sign and move that negative up to the 3. So I'm going to have 4x minus 3 on the top and x minus 5 on the bottom. I forgot to simplify on my first one. Second one's fine though. So 7 and 21 are both divisible by 7. So I have 1 on top and 3 on the bottom. Okay. Moving on, I want to find the sum. I need to factor the denominator. So I have 8 over 12x squared plus x over x plus 1. So on my left side, I'm missing an x plus 1 on the denominator. So I want to multiply by x plus 1 over x plus 1. Over here, I'm missing a 12 and a second x. So I multiply by 12x over 12x. On my denominator for the first one, I get 8x, and then I get 8 over 12x squared times x plus 1. On the second one, I get 12x squared. That's weird. Over 12x squared times x plus 1. Then I want to combine like terms. So I have 12x squared plus 8x plus 8 over 12x squared times x plus 1. I want to factor my first one if possible. First off, I can see they're all divisible by 4, so I want to write a 4 on the outside. Then I have 3x squared plus 2x plus 2 over 12x squared x plus 1. 4 and 12 can both be divided by 4, so I'm going to get rid of the 4 on my numerator. I have 3x squared plus 2x plus 2 over 3x squared x plus 1. And I need to check to make sure that my numerator doesn't factor, so I'm going to go back to Desmos, and I'm going to type it in. I have 3x squared plus 2x plus 2. Doesn't cross the x-axis, so it doesn't factor. So that is my final answer. Note, I cannot cancel these out because the top one has addition and the bottom one has multiplication. If they were both multiplication, then I could. Okay. Next one wants me to find the difference, so I'm going to change my signs to make it positive. Then I need to factor my first one, so I have 5x minus 1 on the top still, and then I'm looking for what multiplies to positive 2 and adds to negative 3. It's going to be negative 2 and negative 1. On my second fraction, they're both divisible by 2, so I'm going to pull the 2 out, and I'm going to have x minus 2. Then I need to look for what each piece is missing. This one is missing a 2, so it gets multiplied by 2 over 2. This one is missing the x minus 1, so it gets multiplied by x minus 1. Okay. This one I multiplied. 2 times 5 is 10x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Denominator is 2 times x minus 2, x minus 1. On the second one, I have 2x times x, which is 2x squared. 2x times negative 1, which is negative 2x. 1 times x, which is x. 1 times negative 1, which is negative 1. On the denominator, I have 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 1. Okay. Then I want to go ahead and combine like terms. So I'll do that down below. I have 2x squared. Then I have 10x minus 2 plus x. So 10 minus 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Then I have negative 2 minus 1, which is negative 3. Which is over 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 1. I need to check to make sure my numerator doesn't factor. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Which is disappointing. I kind of wish I had one that did. Okay, so it does factor, but it doesn't factor nicely. It gives me decimals, so that won't work. So my final answer here is just this.